I think so. Yes. Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, see it.
All righty. So welcome, everybody. We're here tonight to talk about home buying and investing in Barbados. So we're just going to, the format for tonight, as I said, we are recording. So if you don't want to be on the camera, please keep your cameras off. Keep your microphones off unless we're going to do until we get to the Q&A, if you don't mind. My name is Samantha Nash, and I'm an international realtor, and I'm live from Toronto tonight. And I am joined this evening with my co-host, Maish Ward, who is live from Barbados.
Hi.
So I'm going to start with this little presentation, just a little bit about Barbados, and probably everybody knows this, but in case somebody is unfamiliar with Barbados, just some basic information about the country. And then I'm going to introduce Maish officially, and she and I will talk about the process of home ownership and investment in Barbados. So as I mentioned, my name is Samantha Nash. I've been a realtor here in Ontario for 20 years. I'm originally from Barbados. Just a little bit of background. The way that happened is that my mother migrated from England and came to Montreal, Canada, met my father. They were both in the Canadian Army. They got married. My father was doing a hotel managed correspondence course in the Army, and he was a captain. So somehow he got wind of a position. I'm not sure how, because there was no internet back there. Anyways, he got wind of a position in Barbados and married my mother and moved her down there to go manage Southern Palm. So this was right around independence. So that's why he was able, as a Canadian, to go down there and get employment. So they were there for a few years, and then they came back to Canada with me, because actually what happened is after independence, they wouldn't renew his work permit. They're like, well, we need Bajans running our hotels. Rightfully so, fair enough. But I'm a Bajan, so I have my birthright, so I can do that if I like. But that's just a little bit of history on me. So I grew up pretty much here, but then my dad was always in the Caribbean. He was in travel and tourism, and he played a big role in implementing all-inclusive vacations in Barbados, because even though after he left, he came back with the tour operator and had a lot of interactions with, in implementing that, and in particular at Sunset Crest, because if you know, Sunset Crest many, many moons ago was actually a resort. So moving along, I came back to Canada, was a realtor, and then I used to travel back and forth all the time, so people would ask me, do you know anything about real estate? Tell me about the properties in your country and these places that you go to. And then as part of a plan to transition back to Barbados, I decided, you know what, I need to start helping Canadians or people abroad with the process of buying back in Barbados. So let me get them connected. So I went to the National Association of Realtors in the US. I did a course called the Certified International Property Specialist. With that designation, I'm allowed to call myself an international realtor. I just, by coincidence, happened to work for a company called the International Realty Firm. Not by coincidence, I actually like their name. It kind of met what I wanted to do. It matched, so I figured, you know what, I'll go with them. And part of getting the designation, this is important, is that there's a point system. So the point system, you have to prove that you have international experience. So you get points for living abroad, studying abroad, speaking a second language, et cetera, et cetera. So I also lived in the Dominican Republic as part of my father's travel. So I speak Spanish, I've worked there, I've studied there. So I was able to get the points and got the designation. From there, I started to build my network. I did a lot of traveling. I met a lot of realtors, developers, lawyers. I just had to build my network. I had to cut ties with many people too, because if they just didn't seem like they would be, a good match for clients, and I wasn't comfortable with them, I had to, cut ties, because the most important thing for me is being able to refer clients from Canada and abroad to the right people. I want to make sure that I know my partners as I know Maisha. Actually, I think the last time I wore this dress is when I was Maisha and we were at Diana's house. So, I know my partners. I trust them. They're all, professional and trustworthy people. And I can refer people to them confidently and know that they're business is going to be handled properly and successfully with a good experience. So that's a little bit about me. I also do home buyer webinars, help people in Barbados, Jamaica, and Costa Rica as well. So I think that's enough about me. As I mentioned, Maisha is joining us live from Barbados, and she is with Inspired by the Caribbean Real Estate, and we'll be meeting her officially in just a little bit. And I'm just going to move along here and get into some slides. So these are shadow houses for anybody who's unfamiliar. These basically were built so that, you know, they can be moved if need be. So just some random facts about the Barbados. It's a very small island. It's the most easterly island in the Caribbean at 169 square meters. It's outside of the hurricane belt. The last major hurricane damage was in 1955. Although Burrell was there and there was a little bit of damage, I think it definitely wasn't significant. Maisha, can you confirm that?
There were just a few of the fishing industries got a bit of damage on the coastline, but most of it has been repaired now.
Yeah, my understanding was that people just didn't even take their boats out of the water because they're so confident that this hurricane wasn't going to affect them.
Yeah, so we had high surge, water surge. I think that's probably what caught us a bit off guard. But, you know, our prime minister stepped in and really helped out the fishing industry. So that was a good
job.
Support. Yeah.
I love her. Great. So it's a coral island. It's rather flat. There's 2 seasons, the wet and the dry season. Average temperature is about 31 degrees. The Bajan currency is very strong at 2 Bajan dollars to 1 US. For any Canadians that are on the call, for me personally, when I'm traveling to Barbados, I usually go to like the TD Bank or one of the money exchange places and I buy Bajan currency and bring it down because, as we know, our dollar is not worth as much as US. So then to convert it to US to then convert it to Bajan, to me, doesn't make sense. I don't do it like that. Was somebody commenting? No? Okay. So historically, the economy depended on the sugarcane industry, and then in the late 70s, it changed to tourism. Barbados' literacy rate is close to 100%. Barbadian children receive free education up to post-secondary. Maisha, can you confirm, is it also post-secondary? Because I believe...
Yeah, they get basically a grant towards. So when I went to university, there was a small fee, and it has been increased since I left, but it's not substantial. It's
and can you pick... Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you apply that grant whichever university you would like?
No, it has to be, unless you have a scholarship from one of your schools, but the general grant is actually for each person who wants to go to the University of the West Indies in Barbados. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I'm glad you confirmed. Thank you so much. So the Portuguese arrived around 1553 and gave us the name of the bearded ones. This is where they got Barbados from. Likely referring to the island's fig trees. Portuguese left around 1620, and then the British showed up in 1625 and colonized the island. Barbados became independent in 1966, and in 2021 became a republic and replaced the Commonwealth with a president. Was there anything you'd like to add to any of this, Maish?
No, good basic facts to start, for sure.
Okay, great. All right, so here we have the Barbadian flag, blue, yellow, black for the sea. Where's my pointer? The sea, the sand, and the sky, and the black broken trident signifies independence from the Commonwealth. So the shield, the coat of arms here, you have the golden. You have here on the shield, you have the national flower of Barbados. And this is the fig trees. Sorry, this is called the Pride of Barbados, the national flower. Right, and then here on the left side we have the dolphin, which signifies the fishing industry. The pelican here on the right hand side signifies Pelican Island, which is once off the coast of Barbados. The crest above the helmet features a raised arm holding the 2 crossed sugar canes, which symbolizes the sugarcane industry, and the cross also signifies the main religion on the island of Christianity. What else we got here? The coat of arms, the helmet, mantling. Okay, the helmet signifies the ties to the British monarchy, and that's it, right? And pride of industry, the motto. reflecting Barbadian strength, resilience, and economic ambition. Don't kill me. All the fellow Bajans online, do not kill me. If I went to school there, I would have done a better job. Oh my God, don't kill me. Don't come for me. Okay, here we go. Some of the top attractions in Barbados we have here in the center is Bridgetown. You know, I've been on this boat, Stiletto.
Mm-hmm.
This is Mr. Odo's. That's his boat there. Okay, and the Gap, St. Lawrence Gap, which is down in the south coast of Barbados, a very popular tourist attraction. Here's a snippet of people eating at Oyston's Fish Fry on Friday night, which is a whole lot of fun. Here we got some turtles. One of the main tourist things there is swim with the turtles. It's so much fun. I love these creatures. They're amazing. And here we have this one from Harrison's Cave. And then you'll see this little boat over the shipwreck. That's probably likely over by, I would say,
Carlisle Bay.
Yeah, over there, right? By Carlisle Bay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. Some Bajan food. So we have fish cakes. I can actually make these really, really well. Macaroni pie. The national dish was flying fish and cuckoo. This is somebody's dinner plate from Oyston's. Generally, if you go there, you're going to get your grilled. I think this looks like marlin. You'll get a fish choice, a couple of starches, and a couple, or you can pick a starch and then salad. And here's pudding and sauce, which is a Saturday dish, if I'm not mistaken.
You're absolutely correct. It's one of my. I haven't had it in a minute, but it's a proper meal on Saturday at any rum shop.
So true confession, I haven't ever had it.
What?
I'm not much of a pork person. I would much go for the fish.
But you can get pickled anything. They do pickled shrimp. They have so many different options. You don't have to have the pork. You can just have the pudding by itself with pickle, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll do it. All right.
Lots of pepper as well.
I love pepper. That is no problem. All right. So when I think of Barbados, or when I'm traveling there, I think of it as like described as the coastlines. Like we have the West Coast here, which has, the platinum premium beaches, calmer waters, very like this is where I'm drawing a blank. Oh dear. Well, luxury homes and resorts are there.
Well, Sandy Lane.
Sandy Lane is sorry.
Sandy Lane, you have Gibbs, you have all the beaches, the nice calm, as they say, calm beaches on the West Coast. Yeah.
Right. And so I was born there, and Whole Town is right where by Sunset Crest is, and that whole strip there. Here's the capital, and down here in the south coast, we have the St. Lawrence Gap. Oyston's, Miami Beach is over here. The East Coast is a lot more rocky, rougher waters. I see a lot of surfers that go there, actually.
Yeah.
And then the North Coast, sort of the same thing, right? It's more of a nature lovers and not really the best for swimming and whatnot. Anything you'd like to add to that?
So the airport is on the south coast. I think you have a little airplane there.
Yeah.
So the airport is in Christchurch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's it. You're not covered north, east, south, and west. And then you have the Midlands, of course, St. Thomas and St. George. Very valley oriented, cooler temperatures in St. Thomas and along the east coast as well.
Yeah, you brought me up in there. We went to Diana's house, and that's up there is where Harrison's Cave is, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. There's some other caves that I learned of up there too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Boom. So here we go. I think I took this picture. Yes, I did. There's a Radisson. Okay. So now I would like to introduce officially Maish Ward, CEO and Director of Rental and Sales Consultant. So you can take the control, Maish.
Hi, everyone.
Tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Samantha. So I'm a born Bajan. I did live in Guyana for a bit, but I am born in Barbados. My heritage is Guyanese and Bajan. I started off in the industry over a decade ago. Started off quite young, early 20s. Fortunately, I was with a established company, which is Sotheby's, and I had a lot of experience luxury-wise and learning the framework of the real estate industry in Barbados from a rentals and marketing perspective, which gave me the knowledge and wherewithal to learn about the market in such great depth, from the marketing especially. And then subsequently, I went to Christie's Real Estate, so again, another luxury brand, and from there I stepped out on my own and started my own company. long time ago now. I feel like yeah, definitely over 7 years. Actually, it has to be. I had to be in the industry over 15 years now, if I really think about it, because my company is about 7, 8 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I've just been in the industry all my life, and I live and breathe real estate. I got into sales probably about 4 years ago officially, but I always knew about the market because from a marketing perspective, I needed to understand the rentals and the sales. So I did sales recently, and I really fell in love with it. I love my clients. All my clients are mainly overseas, a lot of Americans, a lot of Canadians, and a couple of Brits in terms of my clientele.
Right.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because I have a presentation for everyone. 1 second. All right. Everyone can see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so as Samantha said, my name is Maisha, but for short, you can call me Mai. As you know, friends and family call me Mai, so as you feel comfortable, Maisha or Mai is absolutely fine. This picture here is taken, this is Northwest. This is in St. Peter. This is Mullins Beach, a nice aerial footage of a development called Mullins Bay, and one of the most popular beaches, Mullins Beach, on this side of the island. Yep, just a bit of bio about myself. Again, Christie's and Sotheby's, and I've just been doing this from the time I was in my early 20s, so quite a long time. Last year, my company was fortunate enough to win the Luxury Lifestyle Award for 2024. So for being a boutique company and winning that was quite an established, amazing accomplishment for a team of 3 to
Definitely.
win something like that. All right, so we can go straight into it. Samantha, would you like to go ahead? Yeah.
So, Maisha, tell us, who is your typical buyer in Barbados and where are they buying?
Okay, so the buyers in Barbados traditionally were English. As many of you might know, we were known as Little England. So the English really visited the island quite a bit. Over the last couple of years, I would say in the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've seen a higher percentage of Canadians and Americans coming into the island, especially after COVID. The American and Canadians really shot up because they stayed there during the work visa timeline when the Prime Minister Mia Mottley she introduced work visas here. So the mixture has definitely changed, but it's still substantially quite English based. We have middle to higher income clientele especially across the west coast of the island.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, there are people who come here for remote work and digital nomads who end up renting, but then after staying here for a year or two, they do end up buying. And we get it returning nationals and a lot of returning nationals actually, planning retirement as well, looking for a home to, do investment while they plan their retirement, right?
Right.
From a sales perspective, you would see Canadians, I would say Canadians, English, and Americans buying along the west or the south coast, and returning nationals would more than likely, because they know the island and are comfortable with other parts of the island, buying more inland. They want to be
Right.
close to as well, but they know that it's a small island and it's easy to drive around, so they tend to buy a bit more inland than the foreigners.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I sell in other countries and people always come to me and says, oh, Barbados is so expensive. What do you have to say about that?
I have to understand. I do agree. I've been to some of the other islands, and it is a more expensive island, but there is a reason for that. The standard of living in Barbados and the infrastructure that we've been able to curate, honestly, is unmatched. And the thing is, because I ask my clients that the same thing as well. I said, why did you choose Barbados?
Mm-hmm.
It comes from the infrastructure of safety. The economy is thriving. From an investment perspective, you can make back your money, high ROI. So everything reflected in the real estate pricing from having that entire infrastructure in place for clients. So it's a very established market, especially again in the luxury sector. So when someone looks at that from an investment point of view, it just all makes sense. Again, the confidence there. The Prime Minister is I mean, she's a genius, to be quite honest.
I'm a
And she,
fan. I'm a big fan.
yeah, she comes up with a lot of initiatives. She makes a lot of partnerships. So
Mhm.
overall, it is a very comfortable place to live. It's safe. It has the dollar's pegged. We have our own dollar. The Bajan dollar is pegged to the US dollar. Just a very established market. Healthcare as well. There's pretty good private healthcare. Golf courses. There's just so many options and different lifestyles that you can choose from that apparently aren't as available in other countries in the
Right. So you're saying it's worth it for
It's
sure.
definitely worth it. And again, this is me asking. This is not. I'm a proud agent, but this is me asking my clients. My
Right.
clients, like, why? A lot of them do travel well within the Caribbean, and they just said from the time they stepped in, they just felt very comfortable. So price point aside, you know, if it's worth it, you're not going to really worry about the price. Plus, a lot of them do come from higher. A lot of Canadians, as the Canadian dollar. I know everything's quite expensive right now in Canada. They're like, well, it's technically almost as expensive as Canada, or I think it's less expensive now, if I'm not mistaken. So they're
Barbados is less expensive than Canada.
right. So
Yeah.
they were telling me that as well. So they're like, well, at least the weather is warm, the people are nice, so they could as
Right.
well. They could as well, purchase there. So to them, it's not expensive, but it is more expensive in the Caribbean itself.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense though. Okay, so you're speaking a lot about your foreign clients from different parts of the world. So do you have to be a resident or a citizen to purchase?
No, so fortunately, you do not have to be a resident or citizen to purchase in Barbados. There are actually no restrictions to purchasing a property in Barbados.
Mhm.
So that is great. You can come in, you can actually just purchase. You can even get a mortgage in Barbados as a foreigner with favorable rates, because as it is right now, if you get a mortgage in Barbados dollar, your interest rate would be tied to the Barbadian market, which is about 4 to 5%, compared to the US or even Canada. I think it's 6 to 7%, if I'm not mistaken.
It is, and even in Jamaica, we did a webinar for Jamaica on Tuesday, and their interest rate is like 8-9%.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Now you could get a little bit of. You don't have to put as much money down in that country, but I think Barbados you need 35%. But still, I mean that's reasonable. If I'm
Yeah.
talking about for people who are non-residents or non-Bajans, they have to put 35. Correct?
Correct. They had to put on 35. And fortunately for people who live again in those bigger cities or countries, they have the capacity to save, and they can generally have that amount in cash comfortably. I've not had any issues with someone who could not afford to put down that 35% or more if they wanted to, comfortably again. So it hasn't been any major restrictions with that amount, 35%. They've been quite impressed by that.
Right. And so could one of these foreigners buy a house and then move there and maybe get a job?
So getting a job here it's a bit protected. You have to have a work permit to actually work in Barbados. Again, that's to protect our citizens, to make sure that we have the economy running that way. You could live here as a resident, but you would have to show proof that you have the income to support yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
So
bring a
getting a
business.
job.
Right.
Yeah, you can do a business. Again, with the business, there are certain protected industries, but one of the things I would know is that if you are looking to do a business, some of the industries you might need to have a local partner. Again, they're trying to incorporate the local community as much as possible. So you might have to have a Bajan owning a substantial share of the company in order to actually set up the company. So there's that consideration as well.
But this supports the economy, and this is why Barbados is doing so well. It's actually
It
why my father's work permit wasn't renewed, but that's okay.
On the work permits, there are two different types of work permits. There's a temporary one, which is a bit easier to get. I think it's a couple of months. I don't think it's a full year. But then there's a long-term one, which is 5 years. And for that, you need to be sponsored. So it has to be through a company that can prove that a Bajan citizen cannot provide this particular talent.
Right.
So again,
the welcome visa is still being offered, is it not?
Yes, so the welcome visa again, but you're not working within the economy. You're still working remotely for whichever company from wherever in the world.
Mhm.
You pay into that, and you can live in Barbados comfortably once you're provided that visa or permit, that work permit. So that's another solution option that you can have as well, for sure.
Right, right. So let's talk about the buying process. Can you outline the process for us, like step by step, and tell us a little bit about the time frames and any additional fees that a buyer would have to pay for aside from the actual price of the house?
Yeah, sure. So the process is really simple. Um, it just depends. The difference really lies on if you are purchasing cash or if you're purchasing via financing. So let's talk about cash. Cash is very quick. Cash is king. You can get a sale closed within 2 months, I would say,
Mm,
um, if with the cash. So you find your reputable agent. You look for properties. You have once you find your dream home, you then put on an offer and acceptance, which is verbal, or it can also be a document just outlining the property name, the amount, if it includes furnishings and so forth. You do introduction to attorneys. Um, then you put down your 10% deposit at the time of the sale agreement. And then that balance, the 90%, is due within the 2 months or 3 months, depending on the closure date that is agreed between both parties. So that's the very straightforward step with the cash. The financing, it takes a bit longer because you have to go through of course, with the bureaucratic steps with the bank. And everything needs to be wet signed in Barbados, just letting you know that as well. So if you're not here, things would have to be mailed and signed and notarized and then
right.
stamped back. So that's one of the reasons it takes a bit longer too as well.
Mhm.
With the financing, you have to, we don't offer pre-approvals here. That's one of the things I know is a bit different to the overseas market. So technically what you're supposed to do is find a property and then apply for your loan. I think that's backwards. So luckily I have people in the the lenders, the banks and the lending agencies to give you a pre-approval, which is not official, but they just take your credit report, your employment documentation, or your business documentation, depending on how you want to pay. And you are then provided with an estimate of how much you can get obtained for the loan. Because that's the only way that I'm going to know, and you're going to know what you're willing to
Right.
actually look for or buy, right?
I got that before. That's what I got. I didn't end up purchasing at that time because my mom was sick, so I didn't end up
Right,
doing it, but I got that. But I had to
right.
push for it. I had to request it.
You had to request it because it's not a common practice. Technically, again, they want you to find the property, and I'm like, but how they're going to know? I mean,
What's to buy?
yeah.
Yeah.
So the bank officially can't give you that pre-approval, but they can kind of guide you as to what they potentially would be able to give you until you can do the official uh, process to give you conditional approval.
Hmm.
So that takes about a week or so to get that pre-approval. I'm just putting that in quotation marks. And let's say you find out that you can do a 500,000 US loan and you're happy with that, then I can start sending you properties, and you can decide if you want to come down then view them, or we do virtual tours as well, but most clients would prefer to fly down. So you can see that the process can take quite some time from there, because obviously schedules would have to be arranged in terms of if you can actually get down to view the properties in time before they're sold as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Don't wait till the last minute. This happens to me. Well, people call me, hey,
yeah,
Samantha, I'm in Barbados. I'm here for a week and I'd like to go look at some houses. Um,
yeah.
it's not gonna happen. We need to plan.
It's a plan because to also give you a bit of insight, because clients don't really understand how it works here. We don't have a MLS system, one, so there's no
Mhm.
shared database. So we do have to individually and manually go and look for properties through our own inventory, but also with other agents. So it's a very, it's a tedious process. But then we also don't have the lockbox system, which again, and I know in America has it, where they just have a lockbox. They can just schedule to go in, easy peasy. We
Right.
actually have a schedule with either the owner or the listing agent to get into the property.
Mhm.
And we have to work around schedules of if it's rented. So if they have a client in and the client doesn't want to be interrupted. So planning is really as far in advance as possible, to let your preferred agent know when you're coming, what you're looking for, speak to the bank, even when you're overseas, when you're back home, speak to them up front, get an idea, and really schedule out everything as much as possible.
You mentioned a preferred agent. Explain that to me. What is the benefit of that?
So with an exclusive or preferred agent, instead of having to go to different online agencies, which because everybody starts online, right? So they're going to go and see one property with one particular agent, and then they go to another site and see another property with another agent. You're going to end up splitting your interest. There's nothing wrong with it per se, but what I would say is if you can choose two people to then meet with them or have a conversation with them, see who you feel comfortable with, and then choose one person to act as your cheerleader, it makes life so much easier for the agent because we have a registration process in Barbados. So if you end up choosing 3 agents and you tell them you like this property, and you kind of confusing the agent market. So I would be like, oh, I would like to register Samantha with you, talking to another agent, and then they'd be like, oh, I'm working with that guy as well, and they're like, oh, so then who do you prefer to work with? So it just kind of confuses the market. It's a very small industry, but very competitive. Sorry, it's a very small island, but very competitive industry.
Right.
So it really does make sense choosing one person that you are comfortable with, that would have your back and support you throughout your process, throughout the entire process. So that's the benefit of having one agent, and why you should really only have one agent.
So you mentioned that you think that maybe is easier for the agent, but I think it's actually better for your client also. Here in Toronto, I don't work with anybody in there unless they're exclusive to me. It's a very different situation. We have to sign a buyer representation agreement. It'd be a great thing if Barbados could start doing that. You sign a buyer representation agreement, and I'm responsible to handle the needs and the transaction from beginning to end and take care of this buyer's best interest from the beginning to the end. And so then that creates a trust. You're being represented. And if even without an agreement as such in Barbados, I think if you pick a preferred agent, you have a relationship with them, they're going to be looking for properties while you're sleeping. They're going to be focused, looking out for you at all times. You're not jumping from Tom to Dick. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think it's better for you as a buyer.
Yeah, they have your back. Honestly, the agent has, especially if you come across as a serious client, in terms of just upfront. If you say, look, I saw this property, I clicked on it, I contacted that agent, but I actually prefer to work with you. So I do actually have an agreement like that, Samantha, where I have a client, and when I say, look, I'm not trying to hold you hostage. I said, you can opt at anytime, literally anytime. This just makes it easier for me to do my job for you.
Right.
Yeah, so we do have that, but not a lot of agents use that. I think I'm one of the only agents that actually use that, to be quite honest. I've never seen anyone else use it, really.
Well, when I move down there and start selling real estate personally myself, I'll be using it.
Yeah, definitely.
So are you licensed? The realtors in Barbados have to be licensed, or are there any sort of real estate boards that you have to be members of?
Yeah, there is the Barbados Real Estate Board, BIVA, Real Estate Board for agents and for valuers as well. I am licensed, but technically in Barbados, you don't have to be licensed. It's not mandatory, which is becoming, it's not a very regulated, unfortunately, industry, which it really needs to get some regulations there. So I would say, if you are searching for an agent, you can ask them about the BIVA credentials or their history, because there are some agents who have been in the industry for eons and they're not part of the BIVA, again, because they don't have to be. So just do your own due diligence, check the reviews.
Just come to us and we've got you covered.
yeah, we've got it covered for you, but I'm very open and honest, also, because I know how life is. We will have you covered, but you can even do your due diligence on Samantha, of course, with me, and make sure that you're comfortable with whatever you choose.
Thank you for all of that. So I'm a foreigner. I'm coming from England. I'm going to buy a house and I'd like to rent it out. who's going to take care of this house? Do you offer property management services, or what is your take on that? I have multiple questions about this, but maybe we can just start with that part.
I actually, yeah, sure. I can go into the property management. Let me just, I
Oh,
didn't
I'm sorry.
see.
My
That's okay.
apologies.
That's okay. Yeah. So luckily, the fees to purchasing in Barbados are quite low. If you're buying cash, again, your fees would be lower. So you're looking at about 2% for your legal fees, and if you wanted to pay for an inspection, that would be a couple $100 depending on the level of inspection that you would like.
Mhm.
So the fees are quite low from a cash purchase. If you're a mortgage, you would have to pay legal fees on the mortgage itself and the buying process. You can then lump together the attorney. You can then choose one attorney for both, or you can have it separated. But once you pay your legal fees, I think for finance, you have to pay for evaluation. That's the only other thing. So that one is mandatory. And again, the inspection it's not mandatory, but a lot of people do opt to go for the inspection. It's not too expensive here, luckily. Yeah, and this is just a quick breakdown from seller to buyer. So as you can see, the buyer just has the attorney fees. The deposit is everybody pays their 10% deposit, of course. The valuation fee if you're financed, bank if you're financed, land surveyor, attorney fees. Yeah, and then it depends as well if you want to set up a company here versus having it owned as a personal asset. You might want to do that for tax reasons, because the tax rate just actually went up this year. For last year, it was 5.5% and now it's 9%. But again, it's still one of the lowest in the entire world, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So I have a question. The deposit that you need for your offer is 10%. The bank is going to require, if I'm a non-Bajan, is going to require 35% down. So when do you come up with the rest of that, the funds, and you pay that directly to the bank then, I guess, after?
Right. So you're 35% down. The 10% forms part of that 35%.
Right.
Right. You would have to have that cash ready at any time, basically. That cash should be ready from before you even sign that agreement.
The 10%.
The 10%, yep. And well, the 35%, your 35%.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. The bank then would release the balance, which is 65%, over the course of 3 to 6 months. It just depends on which bank you're going with.
And then your 10% is subtracted from that.
Your 10% is subtracted from your. Yeah. So that 10% could be right. You would need to have that 10% within 2 weeks of signing the offer and acceptance.
Okay. Here in Canada, you have to have it within 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So no one looks at houses unless they have that ready to go. If it's tied up in the RSPs or wherever it is, I have to get it liquidated so that we can, within 24 hours, you need to produce it or you're going to lose that property. Okay, so what the time spans do, I think, even like if you're going to have to come up with your 35%, even though you're saying you need it right away, the fact that the process takes a little bit longer, I think it actually allows you to maybe accumulate more funds or pull funds from different places. It kind of I find it to be like a benefit to the buyer, actually.
Yeah, correct. You have a lot of time to, because I've had, clients where they had to even sell property before they went to purchase another property, and they started the process and sold the property closed the property overseas before it was finalized in Barbados. So yeah, it does allow you a lot of time to get your ducks in a row.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So property management. Yes, you were asking me about property management just now.
Yeah. So, okay. Is this a service that your brokerage provides?
Yeah, we're a full service company here. So we do property management, sales, rentals. So property management is, as it says, we take care of your property while you are not there. So most of my clients are foreigners. Actually, all my clients are foreigners. So they visit, a couple times a year. So when they're not here, some of them choose to rent and some of them prefer to have it for private use. In either situation, we manage the property with weekly checks, paying your bills, helping out with the rentals. And rentals is very dynamic, and that's how I started. So that's my main forte, I would say, is helping you with establishing what rates you need to have, what amenities you should have in your home for the rentals, fine tuning, decor, making suggestions, just making it as appealing as possible for the rental market so that you can cover your costs and make some money back for sure.
And so in your opinion, I think I've heard this before, that the Barbados rental market, once you've had your property rented out consecutively for 4 solid months, that will literally pay for the house for the year. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's a very short, which I'm sure is like this across the Caribbean. I'm assuming that we have a very short money haul, basically between mid-December to around March, April, around Easter, whenever Easter is, March or April, which is the winter season. Of course, nobody wants to be in Canada or in England or in New York during the winter. So that's our peak season. And you make that money, and that money will, and I've seen it before, carry you through until the season comes back around. You will get summer rentals, but it's that winter influx of funds that pushes you through your summer season into the next winter season.
But that's amazing. That's a great return on investment. I mean, we won't get that here in Canada for sure with an investment unit. No.
Oh, yes.
So it's a huge selling feature, I think, for Barbados. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So what is the average cost then for property management services? Is it a percentage, or I guess it depends on what you're providing, but is there an average?
So I know in the States, there is how they do it is a percentage of the rentals. We don't do it like that in Barbados. There's actually 2 separate setups. So you have the property management fee is one thing. And to give you a jump off, there is no standardized price in the market. That's the truth, because each person has different packages, and there's no public domain of what it's supposed to be, unfortunately, unlike the commission on sales.
Right.
So, for a 2-bedroom condo on the West, you're probably looking at $300 US a month. I would say maybe $275 US a month. And that depends on if it's like, beachfront or not as well, because there are different level of maintenance that you would require for beachfront, so it's a bit more work. Then you have the rentals, and then the rental agent, which is what I would do as well. You take a commission. So what I do for my clients is I work out what their net would be based on the market and the industry, so that I match that net every time they get a booking per season. Otherwise, the commission gets confusing, because there's Airbnb commission, there's Booking.com commission. The commissions are all over the place. So it's just simple to know, like, okay, well, I know that I'm supposed to get $150 US a night, for instance, per night for this particular booking or for this particular time. And that's what we match, and that's what we make for you, unless we agree on a discount prior.
Okay, great. What about price ranges? Do you have any examples of listings that you can show us to outline the price ranges of properties in Barbados?
Yeah, sure. So the price ranges are going to be a little different across the West and the South. So the South, you can generally get more bang for your buck. It's a bit more affordable, but that also does mean that you would generally charge less on the South than on the West Coast for the same type of product. Right, so that's a general guide. So I just chose 3, what are these, 2-bedroom condos. We have Exora. So Exora is not on the West Coast itself. It's a bit inland, but it is in a gated community. It's about 10 minutes drive down to the beach, so it's not very far. 320,000 US dollars. It's about 800 to 1,000 square feet. Has tennis court, access, communal pool. And for something like this, the rental revenue for the years that the owner would have rented was about 20,000 Bajan a year. So it's not the highest, again, because it's not on the coast.
Right.
But for where it is and what it is and how much the HOA fees are, it's about $650 Barbados a month. You'll be able to cover your costs easily on something like this, right? We also have the Rockley residences. This is in Christchurch. So
Oh,
these are pre-construction properties. They're now being built 465. Pre-construction properties are where it's at once you have a good developer, somebody who's been in the market or can show what they've done before.
mhm.
This price here is great for a new development in Rockley, 465, 2 bedrooms at 1,300 square feet. That's a fantastic price. And then on the West Coast, across the road from the beach, again, this is a pre-construction. It is 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1,396 square feet. This has one of the few, especially on the West Coast, roof deck with a sky pool. So it's an
Oh,
infinity
nice.
pool, and it looks out to the sea. So it's
Ooh.
going to have, yeah, very nice amenity. And again, across the road from the beach, you can't beat that. That is 579,999 US. And believe it or not, this one includes furnishings. Generally, pre-constructions don't include furnishings. So this for the West Coast is a phenomenal price. And it's harder and harder to find prices, something like this within this price point, unless you're willing to do a lot of renovations, because obviously this is very modern and fresh.
Nice.
Yeah, then there's some other options again. So Turtle View number 9, that's in St. James. Walking distance to the beach again, 599. This is about 20 years old, but it's a pretty big property, over 2,100 square feet, 3 bedrooms upstairs, downstairs living, dining, plunge pool, communal pool, gated community, lovely gardens. Something like that. The HOA fee is about 1,400 Bajan a month as a guide as well. Dover Muse is in Christchurch. If you guys are familiar with Dover, it's at the bottom of St. Lawrence Gap. 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It is a pre-construction site, but they're finished about 4 of the units. And this is the last one listed at 475,000 US dollars. So finding anything really modern or close to the beach or walking distance to the beach under 500,000 US, it usually goes like this.
Right.
That's a
Dover,
sweet.
we've been there.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great location. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic location. And one more on the West Coast is Batali's Muse. This is St. Peter, walking distance from Mullins Beach. Quite large, 2,300 square feet, has a communal pool, private back gardens, tennis courts, and a communal pool, gated community. And this is listed at 650 US, 650,000 US dollars.
This is what is this? What is the structure? Is it one level or is this a house?
It's a townhouse.
Okay, townhouse.
Yeah, good. 3 bedrooms upstairs, similar to Turtle View. 3 bedrooms upstairs, downstairs is living, dining, massive kitchen.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really nice one. All right.
Do you have any others?
Nope, I think those two there. All right. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. As a show of gratitude to the clients listening, I am offering 10% off your next holiday. We have a few homes for rental. You can visit it on forrentbarbados.com. And you can enter this code NASHX Inspired 2025 to receive 10% off our homes up until December the 10th, 2025.
Nice, thank you. Can I use that too?
I can give you a little bit more than that if you want.
Great. Well, anything else, Maish, you'd like to cover, or should we open it up for questions?
I think we should open up for questions because I'm sure it's a lot of information. So if anybody has any questions, anything for clarification reasons, or ask away, please.
If anybody has any questions, you can just unmute your microphone and talk to us over here.
Hello again.
Hello.
Yes. So I did purchase a property actually a few years ago.
Okay.
In Christchurch.
Okay.
Yes. And so, we try to go back to Barbados as often as we can. And in the meantime, we have it on Airbnb in Christchurch. But I wondered if it would make sense to possibly, instead of renting it as individuals, I think somebody was starting to talk about it and then we got sidetracked. What are the possibilities of opening a business, for example, and renting it under a business name, and possibly, acquiring other properties, because that's the ultimate goal is to probably have a bigger place, because it's a small spot with just a little testing kind of
Yes. A
property.
first investment to see if you like it, if you can do
Right.
it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
So
definitely would suggest opening up a company and putting the asset in a company. The legal fees, I'm not 100% sure what that would look like, but there's a few reasons for that. Because technically, if it's under a personal name, it's going to be coming in as personal income. We have a double tax treaty with Canada or New York. I don't know where you're from, but I know we have with Canada. But the income is taxed higher than if it's under a company. Right?
That's what but I remember trying to do the research and starting the process, but I just didn't know where to start. So if you had any resources, even if it's offline or something, to kind of initiate that, I would appreciate that.
If you would like, if you have Samantha, if you just want to give her your contact, or if you have her contact, you can reach out to her, and I can put you in contact with one of the attorneys that I love dearly. She's very quick, and she should be able to guide you on how to transfer from personal. And it also helps when you're selling, if and when, sorry, you're selling the asset. In terms of transfer tax, it would be a lot lower.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Right. I'll make sure I reach out to you or vice versa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the panel? We got a very global turnout. We had New York, New Jersey, Barbados, Jamaica. Sonia's from Toronto. I appreciate everybody coming out. Happy Valentine's to you all.
Valentine's Day. I hope you guys are taking yourselves out after this.
Right? Let's go.
Nice.
It was my choice, but anyways, it was okay. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Maisha, for your expertise as always. And if anybody has any additional questions that you can't think of now, you can reach out to me. Obviously, everybody has my contact information. That's how you got invited to the webinar. So we're here for anything and everything, anything to do with buying and selling in Barbados. I also, as I do, I explain, I do Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, just so you know. So tomorrow afternoon, if you are in Ontario or you know anybody who wants to buy in Ontario for the first time, I'm hosting a home buyer webinar tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock for Ontario. And then Sunday at 4 o'clock again, I'm doing Costa Rica, and I have Dominican Republic coming up in a couple of weeks, just in case you're interested in different marketplaces or you know anybody. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And thank you again to our co-host, Maisha. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. And guys, don't forget, if you are looking to come, if you have not been to Barbados before and you're trying to understand what the appeal is, please trust me, as soon as you land, you'll understand.
Right.
You use the promo code on forrentbarbados.com and you can get 10% off your stay. And we have a 4-night minimum stay, which is a bit less than other places. A lot of places have 7 nights or even 5 nights, but we do 4 nights. And we have some beautiful properties for you to choose from.
That's very nice of you, Maisha. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, then, guys. Have a great night. Enjoy your weekend. Happy Valentine's Day.
Have a good night,
Have
everyone.
a good night. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.